Hi, I'm Justin, and this is the first installment, which should be a weekly program here on my blog. And it's just I don't really have a name for it. It's just what I like to call religious talk. It could be anything from maybe something I heard in church or something somebody told me that sparked some kind of thought, or maybe just my own thinkings within my head. Just some things that are on my mind, and just little things I like to share with you once a week. So actually, this first installment is actually something I've kind of alluded to in my blog post last night. I was talking about being in control, and I would kind of like to expound upon some of the thoughts that I had last night in my blog. As human beings, we have this innate feeling in ourselves to feel like we need to be in control of things. And I'm not sure exactly where that came from, but it's just like a feeling of wanting to be in control. It could be in maybe one aspect of your life, or it could be in multiple aspects. Maybe you feel like you got to be in control of your job, or maybe of your friendships with certain people, or maybe dating relationships or marriage or anything like that. Just this feeling of being in control of your life and the things that are going on in it. And so, what do we do as human beings? What do we do when we want to get control of our life? A lot of times we form a plan, right? You think about as a high school kid, you have a plan to maybe graduate from high school and go to college and graduate in so many years and then go to grad school and then or maybe even in your professional life you're like, okay, I have this job now, and maybe in X number of years I'd like to be at this position, and then maybe in 10 years I'd like to open my own business, or I'd like to maybe leave this company and go to this bigger company over here and be in this position. We form these plans in our lives, and to try to have control, and it makes us feel secure inside when we have a path. And don't get me wrong here, there's nothing wrong with setting goals, having an idea about where you want to go. Those things are perfectly fine. But what happens in life? Life will throw curveballs at you, and these curveballs throws all off our plan, and they just put a monkey wrench in everything. And what happens when your plans get offset? You start feeling frustrated, depressed, maybe upset, confused about things, and you're trying to figure out what to do next. So then what happens? You worry and you have doubts. Worry can tear us up inside, and it can put so much strain and stress upon our relationships with our parents, with our families, with our friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives, you name it. Worry is just a killer, and it's been medically proven to shorten your life if you let it really affect you. And worry just leaves us exhausted. Have you ever just been worrying about something, and you just at the end of the day you're just you're like so exhausted, but you haven't done anything but worry about this one problem? That's what worry does to us. It can just leave us with these feelings of hopelessness and doubt, and we just don't know what to do next. So how do we combat that? Especially as Christians, how do we get past these feelings of worry? Well, I like to just 2 points real quick on some things that have helped me out and can help other people out as well. First point I like to make is just to trust in God. And I know that sounds really easy to say. Oh yeah, just trust in God. Yeah. I mean, after all, God is the creator of the universe. I mean, He holds everything in the palm of His hands. Why not trust in Him? He's the one that is controlling everything. So why not cast your cares upon Him and have Him deal with these problems? And that makes a lot of sense. But is it really that easy to trust in God? Sometimes in life, you're going down a path, and your life will take a turn, and you don't know where you're going. You know, you sit back and you wonder, where is God taking me? This isn't where I want to go. It's not where I want to be. Why is God taking me through what seems like a detour? We've all been there. We've all asked those questions. I've been there. I've asked those questions about where God was taking me. I had no clue sometimes. And there was even times where because I didn't know where I was going, that I wouldn't trust God completely. And there was even times in my life where I even said one time in my life, not recently, within the last probably 5 years, There was a time in my life where I basically said, you know what, God, I don't know. I don't like where you're taking me, so I'm going to do it myself. How many of us have felt like that before? You ever been in that situation where you're just like, I'm going to do things my way because I don't like where you're taking me? And that's what I did. Where did it get me? Got me nowhere. Nowhere at all. And put a lot of strain on some friendships. My church attendance suffered, and it wasn't a very good time. And I had a lot of feelings of doubt and loneliness and depression, and it just became overbearing to try to deal with things and do things my way. So I turned back to God. You know, a lot of times we think we know better. We think we know better for ourselves. We think we know where we want to go and how to get there. But after all, God has that foresight that we don't have. He can see down those roads. We think maybe this path, it looks appealing, or like this path right here. This is the one I want to go on. This looks good to me. But God is the one who can see over the hill, and He can tell us, and that's not where you really want to be. Have you ever had something happen in your life and you think, oh, this is the best thing that could have ever happened to me, and then a little ways down the road you realize, well, maybe that wasn't the best thing at all, actually. That was not really a good decision. Sometimes our choices have a tendency to do that to us. And God has that foresight. He can see that ahead of us. He really knows what's best for us, even though we don't. In Romans chapter 8, verse 28, it says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purpose. All things work together for good, for those who love God and are according to His purpose. Trust in God. Number 2, cast your cares on God. God loves you, and He's going to take care of you. We're promised that in the Bible many, many times. You know, I love in Matthew chapter 14, where Jesus is walking on the water, and Peter, of course, the apostles see it and they're amazed, and Peter says, I want to come to you, Lord. So he does. Jesus says, come. And so Peter starts walking on the water, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here. But Peter starts walking on the water, and he begins to sink. And he cries out to God, or cries out to Jesus. He says, Lord, save me. And Jesus comes over and saves him. Now, I'm not a Greek scholar, and I don't really know the Greek that well. Probably as well as I should. But I love the way how the order of those events took place. Peter began to sink. He called out for help. And then Jesus came and saved him. It doesn't say that Peter began to sink and Jesus came and saved him. Peter had to call out to help first. And a lot of times I think that's what God does with us. He waits for us to call out for help. You know, how many times have we been in situations where we're just in this mess and we're like, God, we're wondering, why doesn't God help me? Why did God allow this to happen? Did you ever stop and ask God for help? Did you bother to get on your knees and pray and ask God, help me? Well, God knows everything. God should know I'm in trouble. Yeah, He does know everything, and I'm sure He does know what you're in. I'm not sure. I know He knows what you're going through. But I'm telling you, He wants us to get on our knees. He wants us to pray. He wants us to go to Him and request help. And then He'd be more than happy to help you out. In James chapter 5, verse 16, the last part of that verse says, the fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Which basically means God answers prayers. He listens to us. When we ask Him in faith, He's going to listen. In the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapter 6, I don't have time to read this whole passage, but Jesus addresses worry, and He tells the people of Israel, you should not be anxious for your life and the things that are in it. Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap, but yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Look at the lilies of the field. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you that Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like one of these. So if God so loves the birds of the air and the lilies of the field, how much more will He take care of you, O ye of little faith? And that's really what it boils down to. Faith. The more faith we have, the less worry we have. The less faith we have, the more worry we're going to have. We have to learn to trust in God. We have to learn to cast all our cares on Him. And then we have to have the faith that God's going to take care of us. He will address those concerns in a way that's according to His purpose, in a way that will work out for good. I'm Justin, and that's all I got for this time. I'll see you guys next week.